Hey guys, it's the Inspirational Power Hour. Of course, it is the video edition. So incredibly excited. As always, I get the chance to hang out with some really, really cool people. Today is no exception. Guys, listen, Phil Thompson is hanging out. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Listen, so glad to be able to spend a little time with you today talking about your music and your ministry and your new single, Only Risen King. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So, Phil, I saw you, I think probably one of your first, maybe global introductions was through your single, through your last release. And we know My Worship just really took it by storm, man. Such a blessing and so impactful to so many people.
Right.
But since then, now you're back with brand new music and we're incredibly excited about that. Phil, I would love it. Can you just kind of give our viewers, our listeners, a little background about how you got started and what brought you to this place?
Yeah, for sure. I was a gym teacher out of college, and
Wow.
9 years in, discovered that I had a gift for songwriting, based upon a challenge that my sister made to me. Are you still there? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So it's just based upon a challenge that my sister gave to me, and I discovered I had this songwriting gift, and I fell in love with writing songs. And it wasn't, I didn't, I'm a shy and introverted person, so I never saw myself ever being on stage in front of people. It was just like I was writing songs, and eventually churches began to sing them, and then eventually other gospel recording artists began to record them. And so 3 years ago, I went through such a difficult season of my life, and God gave me my worship. And when he gave it to me, the honest part about it is I had two other people lined up to sing it that backed out on me, and that remains nameless, but they backed out at the last minute. And so, like I had everything set up for the recording, and I remember talking to God and saying, okay, Lord, I guess you want me to sing this. And, now it's like I can't imagine anybody else recording it, and it's the song just became this anthem for so many different cultures around the world. So the last 3 years we've been traveling around the world, really based upon so many people's connection with that song, And so now we released an entire project, and now we're ready. I wrote so many songs during the pandemic, and we're ready for this sophomore album right now.
I was just saying that I was watching some of your live performances earlier, and I remember you saying in one of your videos that you were kind of talking about that, that low point that you experienced and how through that place, that was the point where you wrote most of your music, right?
Yeah.
And then you talking about writing so many songs for this sophomore album. Do you really feel like in that place, and even considering the fact that you said with My Worship, somebody else was set to release it and then they backed out, do you really feel like sometimes it's in that place that God makes us the most uncomfortable, that we're able to really hear his voice and that he can move like?
Oh my God, yes. And I have so many examples in my life, as do so many people, because as I go around the country and the world talking about my battle with depression, talking about all of the different things that just us human struggle with mental health. And it's not just, everything is not spiritual. Some of the stuff is physical, and mental health is one of those things. And so I talk about so many different things, just that I just love to be transparent about that. And man, it's such a blessing to hear everybody talk about the things that they struggle with, and how how the music is such a blessing to be a blessing, and to hear how the music has impacted them. And so yeah, like I think for me, that first album all came in a broken place. And there are certain lyrics in the song, like where it says, for all, like in My Worship, it says, for all the things you've done for me, no one can worship you for me. And I've thought, man, if I was never in that place, I wouldn't even have thought of that lyric. But it's like he brought me through this whole season, and it it got me to this place to where I said, God, for all the things you've done for me, no one can worship you for me. And so, you know, all things work together for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And so he uses, you know, pain and purpose are connected, you know, and he uses that fire to forge us for sure, you know?
Yeah. So what are some of the things you've learned from the first album to now, whether that's musically or just spiritually or professionally or whatever? What are some of the biggest lessons or the biggest differences that you can see?
Well, I've learned a lot about the industry. I've learned a lot about, you know, part of the thing that I talk about the most is how pain and purpose are connected. And that's the thing, like when I was writing my first album, it was like when you're in the middle of that pain, it's so cloudy and it's so difficult to connect it to purpose, you know, because you're in the middle of it, you know. But once you get on the other side of it, it's like you realize how God's hand was on you the entire time. And I talk about how you know, God's promise to us is not that he will pull us out of the fire, but that he'll be with us in the fire. And so I know a lot of people question, like, Lord, man, why are you allowing me to go through this? You know, I wrote another song called The Ultimate that was on my first project. And I was asking that question, Lord, why are you allowing me to go through this? And the Lord just brought back to my memory scriptures that I learned as a child. And one of those scriptures is, my ways are higher than your ways. My thoughts are higher than your thoughts. So when he brought that scripture back to me, it got me thinking, okay, so I don't have to always understand it. At the end of the day, I just have to trust you that, you know, you have everything under control. And so it kind of changed the way I think about being in the middle of the storm and being in a painful situation. And not always having to figure everything out, but just saying, Lord, I trust you. I know that you know that I'm in the fog right now, and I trust you. You know, I trust this process, and it's you know, I don't want to become comfortable in the fog, but it's a part of this walk that we have. You know,
So Only Risen King, is this the first single off of the sophomore album? Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
First single. It's the first radio single.
First radio single.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But make sure that you check it out, support,
sure.
download, stream, all that kind of good stuff. Phil, tell us what else we can expect from the sound and from the message of the full project.
Yeah, you know, this project came like in the middle of the pandemic. So it's like all of the songs, I wrote them in the middle of that season. And I feel like there were two pandemics going on at the same time, because there was COVID, which the entire world experienced, but then there was this political and civil unrest, really, and a lot of it amongst our people. And it felt like everything was burning down to the ground, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember watching the George Floyd video. I'm not even going to go into detail, but when I watched it the day that it came out, I didn't know that I was watching a lynching or an assassination, you know? And so it just hit me so, just like it hit so many other people, it hit me so hard that that's what I just watched. And so it just felt like everything had burned down to the ground. And I remember hearing a minister preach about how even like with the planet that we live on, the soil becomes more fertile once everything burns down, you know? And so what my prayer is for people that listen to this project is that it's a refreshing, you know, and not like to even be like cliche about this, but honestly, like I really pray that people are refreshed, that people are renewed. And I really feel like those are the type of songs that the Lord gave me for this project. it's kind of like that metamorphosis season, from a caterpillar to a butterfly. And that's kind of where I feel like not even just the country, that's kind of where the world is right now. And I'm excited about being on the front line when it comes to serving the kingdom, because I feel like there's a desperation that's happening. There's a desperation that I can feel right now. And I feel like something big is about to happen, just based upon everything that we just have been through as a planet in the last year and a half, And I feel like this is the setup for something huge. And I feel like more people are going to come, lost people are going to be found. And I feel like even for us in the church, there's going to be a refreshing for us as well. And so I'm excited just to be a tiny little part of that,
Yeah. Listen, we appreciate you. We appreciate your ministry, Phil. Tell everybody how they can connect with you and follow so that they can get the album next week.
Yeah, for sure. So for all merch, you can go to Phil Thompson Worship. And we're actually putting together some tour dates right now. And it's going to extend. We're going to really be extending it to a lot of different cities. We're starting on Sunday, the 25th in Durham. So anybody that's in Durham, we're going to be doing it at World Overcomers Christian Church. And then the following Sunday in Boston at Jubilee. And we're going to, if you follow me on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, you can see all of the tour schedule that we're going to be posting. And that's at Phil Thompson Worship.
All right. Listen, thank you so much. We appreciate it, Phil. I appreciate you hanging out today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Anything you want to say before we get ready to go? Anything you want to say to our viewers and our listeners?
Hey, guys, I really, really, really hope that my new single, Only Risen King, blesses your life. God bless you.
All right, guys, it's the Inspirational Power Hour.
It's the Inspirational